All right, let's jump right in. In cybersecurity, organizations pour tons of money into building digital walls and hiring digital guards. But here's the million-dollar question. How do they really know if any of it actually works? Well, today, we're diving into the pretty intense war games they play to find out. So, picture this. You've built what you believe is the most secure fortress imaginable. You've got high walls, alarms, guards patrolling the perimeter. You feel safe. But are you? How do you find that one tiny, hidden crack in your defenses before a real enemy does? And this is where it gets wild. The answer, well, it's kind of counterintuitive. You don't just sit around and wait for an attack. You actually invite one. You go out, you find the cleverest, most skilled attackers you can, and you pay them to try and break down everything you've built. Now, this whole practice, it actually has a name. It's called red teaming. And it's not some new fad either. The term itself comes straight out of military war games from way back in the 1960s. The core idea is simple but powerful. To truly test your defenses, you need a dedicated team whose only job is to think and act like the enemy. Okay, so you can't have a battle without players, right? And in this particular cybersecurity war game, there are a few key teams on the field, each with a very, very specific job to do. Let's get to know them. So on one side, you've got your red team. These are our attackers, our ethical hackers. Their mission is to emulate a real adversary and find a way in, any way in. And on the other side, you've got the blue team. These are the defenders. These are the folks in the Security Operations Center, the SOC, watching the monitors, analyzing alerts, and ready to spring into action to stop the intruders. It's the classic offense versus defense. But wait, what about the color purple? Well, the purple team isn't a third team fighting on the battlefield. Think of it more like a post-game huddle. It's a collaborative function where the red team and the blue team get in the same room, share notes, and walk through exactly how the attack happened, step by step. This is the real game changer, because it turns a simple test into a massive learning opportunity. Now you can imagine, even if it's a simulation, you can't just let a bunch of hackers loose inside a company's network. I mean, that would be absolute chaos. So, to make sure this war game actually helps the fortress instead of, burning it down, there have to be some very strict rules of engagement. And rule number 1, the absolute non-negotiable golden rule is this. You must have permission, explicit written permission, because without it, you're not a red teamer, you're just a criminal. It's that simple. So once you have that permission, the next critical step is to define the scope. The scope is basically the official rulebook for the war game. It clearly lays out all the boundaries, what's fair game and what's totally off limits. This is super important to make sure the test is realistic without, accidentally crashing the whole company. And this rulebook can get pretty detailed. For a big global company, you might have geographical limits, like don't touch our servers in this country. There are rules about people too. Maybe trying to phish the CEO is a no-go. And of course, there are systems that are off limits, like you're definitely not going to mess with a retailer's e-commerce site during Black Friday. And finally, you set a time frame. Is this a quick 2-day sprint or a long drawn-out campaign over several months? Okay, so we've got our attackers, we've got our defenders, we have rules. This brings up a pretty obvious question, right? How do you win this thing? Well, the answer might not be what you expect. I mean, really think about it for a second. The attackers and defenders, they're technically on the same side. They both work for the organization. So what does winning even look like here? If the red team breaks in and gets the goods, does that mean the blue team lost? Or is there something bigger going on? And here it is. This is the heart of it all. It's not about the red team winning. The real victory, the only metric that truly matters, is how much the organization's security gets better. The real question is, did we make the blue team faster, smarter, and stronger? That's the only win that counts. Of course, to keep a game like this focused on the right goal, you're going to need a referee. In the world of red teaming, they're called the control team. It's a small, trusted group inside the company that knows the whole thing is a simulation. They're the neutral party who can step in and say, okay, red team, that's a little too close to a critical system. Or tell the blue team, hey, stand down, don't spend $1 million on a real incident response, this is just a drill. They keep the whole thing running smoothly. So let's just pull back for a moment. Why go through all this trouble? Setting up teams, making these complicated rules, running these elaborate simulations, it all comes down to challenging one of the most dangerous things in security. Now, You may have heard of things called capture the flag competitions, or CTFs, and it's super important to understand the difference here. A CTF is more like a skills competition, right? It's a fun puzzle to see who has the best technical chops. A red team exercise, on the other hand, is a true fitness test. It's not a puzzle, it's a live simulation against a real network to see how the defenses hold up under real pressure. So think of it like this. One is a skills workout, the other is a live sparring match. And that's really the ultimate point. The whole goal here is to improve your cybersecurity fitness. A company can spend all this time and money buying the best security gear, but a red team exercise is how you actually validate it. It puts all those tools and people to the test to see if they're as strong as you hope they are. Which brings us to the one fundamental question that every single organization has to ask itself. Are your defenses really as strong as you assume they are? Because it's one thing to believe in the walls you've built, but in security, assumptions can be fatal. Because in the end, it really just boils down to this. This kind of testing is all about questioning everything, relentlessly. Because if you don't find the weaknesses in your own fortress, the real bad guys will do it for you. And trust me, you are not going to like their answer.